Ready? Okay, break. It's time for the High School Huddle. Your host, Jordan Hirsh, is getting set to break down all the action on the local gridirons in Bucks and Mercer Counties. Stats, conversation, inside analysis. It's all here on the High School Huddle, proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates right now on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM.
Welcome on in to another installment of the High School Huddle. It's the penultimate regular season High School Huddle as we are barreling towards the playoffs here in Bucks and Mercer County. I am your host, Jordan Hirsh, and as we get deeper and deeper into October, these games get even more heightened, even more intense, and we've got a lot to get to once again here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon in Lower Bucks County. We're going to be talking about the Neshaminy Skins, starting off with them, as we always do here on the show. Neshaminy got back on track last week in a wild 41-35 win against CB East. They're looking to make it a CB sweep, taking on the South Titans tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Pennsbury Falcons. For Pennsbury, perhaps their best chance is this week to get in the win column. They're taking on Abington. Then the game of the week over in Mercer County. Boy, oh boy, do we have a good one for you. Hopewell Valley Steinert, Saturday, 11 a.m. Winner gets a share of the West Jersey Football League Capital Division title. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned for all of that. And then at the end of the show, our final two segments, we've got a pair of interviews for you today. We're going to be talking with Lawrence football head coach Rob Radice. The Cardinals much improved this season, looking to make a late season playoff push. They need some help, but we're going to be talking to Rob Radice a little later on, and also to Hamilton West head coach Mike Papero. Speaking of more improved teams, how about the Hornets? 4-2, potentially 2 wins away from a playoff berth. We're going to ask Papero about his season, how this team has gotten to 4-2 after a couple of 2-win years the past 2 seasons. You're not going to want to miss any of the action going down on the High School Huddle. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned for the full hour of this show. All right. Let's start it off like we always do. The Neshaminy Skins, they got back on track like I mentioned. It was a wild game in Doylestown last week. Neshaminy winning 41-35 over Central Bucks East. This was a game that a lot of people thought would be low scoring, maybe a defensive slugfest, but both sides' offenses were on full display. These two teams entered the game ranked first and third in the National Division in points allowed. Neshaminy had only given up 90, CB East had given up 94, and despite that, these squads combined for 11 total touchdowns. Let's recap how this game went, because there was a lot of action that went down up at CB East last Friday. Just 2 plays in, Neshaminy running back Carter Klee takes it 74 yards to the house. That started the scoring. The Patriots responded with a near 9-minute drive to even it at 7. Klee punched it in one more time, but then for the Patriots, Alex White, the senior on senior night, he ran the ensuing kickoff back 85 yards. That locked it up at 14. That was all in the first quarter. Then in the second, Brock Williams got unleashed. He pulled down touchdown grabs of 54 yards and 15 yards. The Patriots scored with 3 seconds left, converted on a 2-point try. It was 28-22 at halftime. Then, out of the break, Michael Eckert, who was just on one the entire night, found Nick Sassano twice on deep balls. That extended the advantage to 41-22. By the way, the second Brock Williams touchdown, which was the 54-yarder, and the first Nick Sassano touchdown, both came on 3rd and 16 plays. Neshaminy getting bailed out and then some. But CB East wouldn't go down quietly. Their quarterback, their backup quarterback, Mike Bova, he connected with Sam Pizzell, and then Hunter Pulford found Owen Grotz for a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. That cut the deficit to 6 with just 3:14 left. Then in the final 2 minutes, CB East, they got the ball back, but they got doomed by some trickery. They used trick plays to their advantage all night long, but it really came back to bite them in the final 2 minutes. Their first play of what they were hoping would be a game-winning drive that started on the 38 of Neshaminy. They had fantastic field position. Hunter Pulford, he laterals it to wide receiver Tommy Seiler, launched the ball into double coverage, and then Tristan Rivera comes up with the game-sealing pick off of a bobble. Kind of some poetic justice after Neshaminy lost on a bobbled interception against Penridge the previous week. But let's take a look at some stats from this game. Michael Eckert, probably his best game all year. 14 of 19, 248 yards, 4 touchdowns, 11 carries for 24 yards. Carter Clay, 12 carries, but 151 yards. He was over 100 by the end of the first quarter. Scored 2 touchdowns in the first as well. Brock Williams, big night for big play. Brock Williams, 6 catches, 124 yards, which was a career high, and 2 touchdowns. Nick Sassano, 2 catches that both went for scores and 51 yards. Bobby Lagler, 4 catches, 64 yards. Luke Howell made his return to the lineup at the linebacker position after a 2-week absence. Him and Owen Schwartz, 14 total tackles. Not combined, they each had 14 total tackles. Also a tackle for loss, and Luke Howell added half a sack. Mike Sassano, 13 tackles on defense, and then Dan McGarity, he continues to play well after being moved into the box from that strong safety position. He had 10 total tackles. So for Neshaminy, after scoring just 7 points against Penridge the previous week, it was really refreshing to see them go out there and just explode. This was their 3rd game of the year with 40 or more points, and easily their most impressive, considering the first 2 came against Council Rock North and Abington, who are combined just 1-15. This one occurs on the road against a team allowing just over 13 points per game coming into the contest. It was, like I mentioned, probably Michael Eckert's best game of the season, especially when it came to his accuracy. And that's really saying something considering his completion percentage is north of 70%. He did have a game against Abington earlier this year where he threw just 1 incompletion, but the secondary of CB East, way more talented. Eckert made a bunch of tight window throws, and really all 4 of his touchdowns were on tight windows as well. And so now, as a result of the win, Neshaminy, they jumped 2 spots in the PIAA District 1 Class 6A rankings. They would now sit as the 7 seed if the season ended today, meaning they would have a home playoff game in the first round. They would be facing last year's district champs, Downingtown West, if the season ended today. As for CB East, they dropped from 13 to 14. And for those of you wondering, the top 6 that are ahead of Neshaminy right now are Penridge and Coatesville, who are 1 and 2. They both suffered their first loss last week. Then North Penn sits at 3. CB West sits at 4. Neshaminy has already beaten both of those teams. Downingtown East is 5. And how about Council Rock South, the season they're putting together? They're number 6 right now. Neshaminy, they have 143.75 power points. That is 15 back of Penridge for first, so probably a very far cry in terms of getting that top seed. They're just 2.5 points behind CB West for 4th. That's most likely the highest ranking they could attain if everything falls into place. And for everything to fall into place, they would have to keep it going against the Central Bucks South Titans. They're taking on CB South tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Myself and Rob Gilmore will be on the call from Warrington. So the Skins looking for that Central Bucks sweep. And keeping with the postseason storylines, I would expect to see the best version of CB South tomorrow night. They currently sit 18th in the rankings. Only the top 16 make it. They have 105 power points. They're 7.5 back of 16th ranked Boyertown. Plymouth Whitemarsh is in the middle. So a win for CB South against a top 7 team like Neshaminy, that could go a long way in helping the Titans get back in the mix for the playoffs. They most likely would have to win out to get in. Neshaminy, taking a look at the history of this matchup, they're 8-6 against CB South in the Max Preps era. They've lost 4 straight to the Titans. Their last win came all the way back in 2020. And that was before the Titans entered the National Division. Last year, CB South came into Heartbreak Ridge. They delivered a 35-7 beatdown. Michael Eckert went just 4 for 15 for 56 yards in that game. The offense as a whole was held to just 191 yards. Neshaminy gave up 241 and 4 touchdowns on the ground, including 2 TDs to Braylon Cape, who will be available in this game. He's now a junior. He was a sophomore last season. So Neshaminy, they're going to have to be ready for another war. They got it last week with CB East, a team that typically doesn't put up big numbers. They'd been struggling a bit over their previous 4 games. They gave Neshaminy a real battle, and I think you should expect nothing less from the Titans tomorrow night. I also think this is great for Neshaminy to have games like this at the end of the regular season. Games against teams like Central Bucks East and Central Bucks South, who are treating these matchups like it's the postseason already, as they're trying to jostle for positioning and trying to clinch a berth in the playoffs. These are the games that can help the Skins get prepared for what is sure to be another knockdown, drag-out tournament. It begins in just 2 weeks. Even their last game against Pennsbury next week, despite the Falcons not being very good, that's always intense no matter the records. So Neshaminy, they got to be ready to get the Titans' best on Friday. That is tomorrow. Let's take a look at the scouting report for CB South. They're currently just 4-4. They're 3-2 in divisional play. They continue this trend of Neshaminy playing teams who just faced Abington. CB South beat the Ghosts last week, 28-14. They've alternated wins and losses since divisional play began back on September 12th. And in the game last week, junior running back Colin White, he went off. 15 carries, 133 yards, and a touchdown. On defense, the Titans got home for 4.5 team sacks. They recovered 2 fumbles. Looking at the season statistics for the Titans, they're led by senior quarterback Cade Krim, who's not really a big threat with his arm. He's just 50 of 84 this year, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. On the ground is where he can get you. 82 carries, 370 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Junior running back Gavin Graham, he has missed the last 3 games with an injury. He's still the team's leading rusher at 66 carries, 512 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's been backed up quite nicely by a pair of junior running backs, one of them being Braylon Cape, like I mentioned, who had a big game against Neshaminy last season. This year, 58 carries, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns. Then there's Colin White, 50 carries, 286 yards. That's just under 6 yards per carry. He's got 4 touchdowns as well. For CB South, 18 of their 21 offensive touchdowns have come on the ground. Through the air, you got to watch out for senior wide receiver James Chan. 6 catches, 169 yards. He's a big play threat. Senior wide receiver David Ahuja, 10 catches for 135 yards and a touchdown. Another big play threat is James Schaefer, another senior receiver, 6 catches, 143 yards. He's got a TD. Graham, he's got 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss on defense. At the linebacker position, they're very deep as well. Junior linebacker Javin Koob, 51 total tackles. That leads the team, 4 TFLs. And then senior linebacker Jack Bartolilolo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 46 tackles, 8 TFLs. The defense has forced 10 turnovers, 3 interceptions. They've recovered 7 fumbles. They have 18 team sacks. They're a defensive line that can get home if you let them. They're going up against a Neshaminy offensive line that's been very good, however, this week. And now Neshaminy, let's talk about their run defense. They faced 3 straight run-heavy teams. CB West didn't provide stats for their game against the Skins, but Neshaminy held Nick Mileto and Louis Sapalo relatively in check for most of that game. Then they gave up 143 yards on the ground to Penridge. Most of those came on their 2 touchdown drives and just 4.2 yards per carry to the Rams. And then last week, they allow 177 rushing yards, which is the most they've given up all season, but that came on 45 CB East carries. That equates to just 3.9 yards per carry with a long of 14. It's another case of how an optimist and a pessimist can look at this situation 2 different ways. The optimist would say the Skins should be well prepared to slow down CB South, considering the fact they've had loads of practice stopping the run these last 3 games. And they've quieted down some real talented backs in the process. However, the pessimist, he would say, or she would say, that they could be potentially getting worn down, especially since they allowed the 177 last week. They let CB East sustain a bunch of drives that started in their own territory. But the way I see it is like this. I think this should be the best version of CB South's run game that Neshaminy is going to see, considering the Titans have a little bit of desperation. To me, therefore, it's going to be tough to slow them down for that full 48 minutes. But the Titans' defense ranks second to last in points allowed in the division. They've given up 142. That's only ahead of Abington, who's given up a whopping 271. So if Neshaminy's offense can do what they did against CB East, as long as the defense holds their own and does enough tomorrow night, I think Neshaminy is going to have enough to get a win. But you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the rest of this show and also to that game tomorrow night. Again, myself, Rob Gilmore, we've got the call from Warrington. Neshaminy looking to go over their season win total from last year, looking to pick up victory number 7 and make it a CB sweep when they take on the Titans of Central Bucks South. All right, we still got a lot more to get to here on the High School Huddle. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little Falcon football. Pennsbury looking for their first win against Abington. We're also going to jump across the river. We're going to go into Mercer County. Big game, Hopewell Valley and Steinert. And then a little later on, we'll be talking to Lawrence football head coach Rob Radice and Hamilton West head coach Mike Papero. That's all coming for you next, right here on the High School Huddle.
Are you a parrot head?
Away again in Margarita.
Not that kind.
Oi dana, mother to papuga.
That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
Today's show is proudly sponsored by Anthony Petsis and Associates, voted the best financial advisory firm in Bucks County for 13 years by the Bucks County Courier-Times. Anthony Petsis and Associates delivers people-centered advice, empowering you to take control of your financial future with confidence. Their firm is committed to helping your family build and preserve wealth for the next 100 years. If you're interested in becoming a client of the top-rated financial advisory firm in Bucks County, please contact Anthony Petsis and Associates at 215-968-6638. That's 215-968-6638. You can also visit their website at apetsis.com. Anthony Petsis and Associates. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
In your journey back to work, we understand the barriers you may face. We have a solution to bridge that gap. No matter your background, PA CareerLink staff are here to provide personalized assistance and help you thrive. Take the first step towards a new chapter in your career journey with PA CareerLink. Visit pacareerlink.pa.gov or your local PA CareerLink office today.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
You're listening to the High School Huddle on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. The High School Huddle is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your host, Jordan Hirsh.
Welcome back into the High School Huddle. I am your host, Jordan Hirsh, here on the radio side, WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM, and on the YouTube side at WBCB Sports. All right, last segment we spent talking about the Neshaminy Skins. They're looking for win number 7, taking on Central Bucks South tomorrow night. The other Bucks County team we like to cover here on the show, the Pennsbury Falcons. Last week, they took on North Penn, homecoming Saturday afternoon. They fell, unfortunately, 20-0. It was yet another case. Pennsbury's defense playing well enough to win. The offense, however, did not make nearly enough big plays in this game. Pennsbury has now lost 18 of their last 19 to the Knights in the Max Preps era, and this was the first double-digit loss since 2021. Now, for North Penn, the 20 points, that was the fewest they scored in a win all season. Also the fewest they'd scored against Pennsbury since 2019. But for the Falcons, this season really comes down to one main thing, and that's just the fact that it's always going to be a mystery how this season could have gone if Jordan Brenzinger was healthy. It would have been really tough to rely on one guy to carry your offense, but having that explosive playmaker at running back with a really good defense, that almost undoubtedly would have gotten the Falcons to at least a few more wins this year. They would have had more big playability, and the passing game would have had a lot easier time getting unglued if teams had to pay special attention to a guy like Brenzinger in the ground game. But now the Falcons, perhaps their best chance of any to get in the win column this year. They're taking on Abington tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Chris Ermer, Gus Barber, Ben Goldstein, they've got the call for you on WBCB Sports on YouTube for this game. Galloping Ghosts, they enter this game 1-7. Pennsbury's 0-8. Abington, they've lost 6 consecutive games. They're being outscored 125-271 this season, giving up nearly 34 points per game. Last year, Pennsbury crushed Abington 35-0. They're 14-10 against them in the Max Preps era, which goes back to 2004. Pennsbury's won 3 straight meetings over the Ghosts. They've also scored at least 35 points against them in each of the last 4 games. So now taking a look at the scouting report for Abington, their lone win came back on August 29th against current 1-7 Harry S. Truman, beat them 42-7, and honestly, they played their best game in over a month last week when they lost 28-14 against CB South. It was the first time they had held an opponent under 40 points since September 5th. Taking a look at the season stats prior to last week, they had not been posted for the game against CB South. So again, these stats that I'm about to list are from prior to the Central Bucks South game. Sophomore quarterback Miles Yakis, 79 of 154, already over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Junior running back Kai Taylor, 42 carries, 225 yards, and 2 scores. And then senior running back Braylon Peterkin, 39 carries for 73 yards. It's not that fearsome of a run game. They average just 2.6 yards per carry. Abington makes their money through the air. Senior wide receivers, they've got a trio of them. Aiden Turner, 16 catches, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. Antonio Ford, 12 catches, 209 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Jake Leach, 21 catches, 291 yards, and 2 scores. On defense, they have just 3 sacks all season and 6 takeaways, but they have not gotten a single sack or takeaway in over a month. 2 interceptions, by the way, are from Cameron Powell, who you've got to keep an eye on if you're Pennsbury. And for the Falcons, if they can just play a clean game on offense, not turn the football over, and force a turnover or 2 on defense, I think they're going to be well in position to get that first win of the year. I trust this defense well enough to slow down Yakis in the passing game, and I think the offense can take advantage of a young, inexperienced Abington defense enough to score enough points to win this game. I think Pennsbury has a real nice shot tomorrow to get in the win column for the first time here in 2025. But all right, we're going to make a mid-segment jump across the Delaware River, and let's talk about the game of the week going on over in Mercer County. Hopewell Valley taking on Steinert in Hamilton, 11 a.m. Saturday morning. This is the game of the year in Mercer County. Hopewell Valley 5-2, Steinert 5-1. Both teams, they're 3-0 in the Capital Division. The winner of this game clinches at least a share of the division crown, as well as significantly bolsters their resume for the playoffs. Bulldogs, reigning Capital Division champs. They've won 2 of the last 3 titles. Steinert has never won the Capital Division. This is their second go-around as part of the Capital. This is their second season in their second go-around after realignment back in 2020. The Spartans, they last won a division in 2015 when they were a member of the West Jersey Football League Patriot Division. But for the Bulldogs, we knew that they were going to have a solid team once again this year. With as many players as they lost from last year's squad, however, that finished the year at 10-1, there were still a lot of question marks coming into the season, many of which they've been answered. Hopewell Valley did fall short last week in their quest to hand Burlington Township their first loss of the year, fell 28-14 at home. And that loss, it did bring to light some potential problem areas for the Bulldogs as we head towards the postseason. One of them being junior running back Ethan Valenza, who just lit the world on fire in Week 1 and Week 2, going for 464 rushing yards across a 2-game span to open his varsity career. However, since then, he's only rushed for north of 60 yards once in 4 games. And going into the playoffs with the goal the Bulldogs have of getting over the hump and winning a sectional and perhaps even a state title, they will need all facets of their game to be clicking. Last week, that was also the first time we've seen Grayson Vlasic struggle in quite some time. He was held to just 7 of 17, 95 yards, and he threw 2 interceptions. And while this may just be a blip on the radar for Vlasic, it is fair to wonder if a performance like that against the top team in the state could be something that rears its ugly head in the playoffs. Now, for Steinert. They have just about everything you could ask for going into this game. They're well rested. They're coming off a bye. They have momentum, winners of 5 straight. They're at home, and it's senior day, so you know the energy in that place is going to be off the charts. The Spartans certainly have some impressive wins this season, but they still don't have that signature victory. A signature win that could cement the fact that they should be talked about with some of the elite teams in this area, meaning not just Mercer County, but even Burlington as well. Like, when you think about the class that Hopewell Valley is in, you think Seneca, you think Burlington Township, you think Northern Burlington. For Steinert to go out there and to get to that spot, They have to prove they can beat a team like that, and this may be their best shot at doing so. I would expect the Spartans to once again use a heavy dose of the run game with Isaac Pate, and this is one game where the Bulldogs are going to have to prove they could stop Pate, because the Spartans are just going to, I believe, try to just run it down Hopewell Valley's throat until the Bulldogs prove they can stop him, which no team has done so far this year. He's already over 1,000 yards for the season, hasn't been held under the mark of 123 rushing yards in a game all year. That came all the way back in week 0, by the way, against Central Regional and Steinert's lone loss. Pate's averaging over 200 yards per game on the ground his last 2. Now, Hopewell Valley does feature a very stout defensive line, anchored by guys like Carter Horvath and Lucas Hemmer, who have a combined 11 tackles for loss and 9 sacks this year. And in fact, as a team, the Bulldogs actually have 37.5 team TFLs this season, which averages out to over 5 per game. However, they did just get burned by Burlington Township's junior standout Aiden Binns. Binns had 20 carries for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Now, Binns is one of the best running backs in New Jersey, but his stats aren't too far off from those of Isaac Pate. Aiden Binns, 136 carries, 1,226 yards, that's 9 yards per carry, and 14 touchdowns. Isaac Pate, 124 carries, 1,005 yards, that's 8.1 yards per carry, and 10 touchdowns. So the Hopewell Valley defense, they're going to have to hold up if they want to avoid back-to-back losses for the first time since their last 2 games of the 2021 season. In fact, Hopewell hasn't lost back-to-back regular season games since they lost 4 in a row back in 2020. Now, another storyline going into this game, it's going to be the quarterback battle. Both Grayson Vlasic and John LaGuardia for Steinert, they're first-year starters, and despite Vlasic being a senior and LaGuardia being just a sophomore, this is the first season for these two under center at their 2 respective schools. Now, Vlasic, he's shown great poise at time this year, and honestly, despite a lackluster game last week, he's still averaging over 150 passing yards per game in his last 3. He's got 6 touchdown throws in that span. He's done a very good job of not turning the ball over, despite this being his first year under center at the varsity level. Just 3 interceptions, now 2 of which they were last week. But I think a good showing for Vlasic and a win on Saturday, that would go a long way for his confidence too. Yeah, he was probably on top of the world after they knocked off Seneca. He threw 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter to come back and win that game. And if he can put together another standout performance against the top team in the area, that should give him a lot more momentum and belief in himself going into the playoffs that he can perform when the lights are brightest. Now, for LaGuardia, he hasn't been asked to do as much as Vlasic this year, but he's done an excellent job as a game manager. He's done great allowing the rest of his super talented roster to just go out there and do their thing. He threw 3 interceptions in his debut at Central Regional back in week 0. He's thrown just 3 picks since then, and he also has thrown his first 3 career touchdown passes in his last 2 games. And when he was asked to do a little bit more a couple of weeks ago in Steinert's win over Morristown, he certainly delivered. He put up a stat line of 11 for 19, 170 yards, a touchdown, did throw 2 interceptions. This was his first game over 100 passing yards on the season as well, so a career high for LaGuardia in that game. And I don't think head coach Thaddeus Richards' game plan is going to involve a super heavy dose of the passing game this week, but if the Spartans fall behind and they have to stray away from that original game plan, and if the Spartans fall behind, by the way, that would be a situation they haven't been in much this year. Steinert very used to playing from ahead, and maybe that's a part of the reason why LaGuardia hasn't been asked to do too much. But it would be interesting to see how the sophomore handles that kind of pressure. In the playoffs, Steinert can't expect to just cruise all the way through, and eventually LaGuardia is going to have to step up and make some big-time throws. So if he gets the opportunity to do so on Saturday and he succeeds, I think Steinert fans should be feeling even better about their chances. If not, yes, Isaac Pate can still put this team on his back, but I think the concern level, it would increase a little bit if LaGuardia can't get it done, if Steinert does find themselves in that situation where they're trailing and they need a big comeback from their quarterback. Now, of course, I can't make my prediction for this game, on this show, that will come tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. Myself and Rich Fisher, we've got you for Friday Night Hype on the radio on WBCB 1490 AM 107.3 FM. We'll also be streaming it live on YouTube at WBCB Sports. We're going to be talking about this game, a whole slew of other games going on around Mercer County, as well as Pennsbury and Neshaminy. So make sure you tune in tomorrow from 4 to 5 for another installment of Friday Night Hype. And I think to get a lot of people hyped up on this show, let's have some coaches' interviews. How about that? When we come back, we'll be talking to the head coach of Lawrence High School football, Rob Radice. The Cardinals putting together a pretty good season, all things considered. They're 4-3. They couldn't get the win over Burlington City last week in a big game, but they did keep it close with the Blue Devils. And then after Rob Radice coming on in, it will be Hamilton West head coach Mike Papero, a much improved Hornet squad he's got in Hamilton. Going to ask him about some of the improvements that his team has made as they look to make a late season playoff push. They're going to be on WBCB Saturday afternoon. They're going to be taking on Robbinsville at 2 o'clock. Going to ask about his scouting report of the Ravens and so much more. So Rob Radice from Lawrence, Mike Papero from Hamilton West, both coming up. Let's go to break. We'll be back to talk with the Cardinals head coach right after this on the High School Huddle.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org. With over 7,200 square feet of 200 brewers in stock at all times, Pantheon Beverages now features 5 different flavors of their favorite slushy cocktails. You can also purchase all your wine, liquor, and other fine spirits right next door. Visit us on Facebook or online at pantheonbeverages.com for upcoming events and samples from your favorite brewery or local food vendor.
You won't see termites crawling across your floor, but thousands might be devouring the wood in your walls, weakening the structure of your home. For over 50 years, termite proofing and pest control of the Delaware Valley has been in the exterminating business. If you think you have a pest problem, they're the experts. Call them today at 215-639-5455. That's 215-639-5455 for TPPC. Termite proofing and pest control of the Delaware Valley gives your home or business peace of mind, knowing your pest problem is in their hands. Located at 1560 Bristol Pike in Bensalem, they use only EPA-approved material applied by licensed technicians. Call Termite Proofing and Pest Control of the Delaware Valley at 215-639-5455.
You're listening to the High School Huddle on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. The High School Huddle is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your host, Jordan Hirsh.
Welcome back into the High School Huddle. I am your host, Jordan Hirsh. And now on the line, I've got a very special guest making his High School Huddle debut, the head coach of Lawrence Cardinals football, Rob Radice. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing well, Jordan. Nice to hear back from you. And I hear you're doing a great job over there with High School Huddle, so congrats to you.
Thank you so much. For those of you in the listening audience that don't know, I've covered the Cardinals now the last couple of years over at Rider, now doing so here at WBCB. And Coach, this season, you guys off to this 4-3 start, 2 games to go, led by junior running back James Lyons. He's on pace to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. What makes him such a good running back, and what have you liked out of his development now in year 2 as a starter?
So that's certainly the goal, to get James over 1,000, but the more important goal is to win football games. We've been battling all season. Kids have been doing a great job. I think that the ones we've lost to all playoff teams, and they were really good games. We just lost to BC 24-13, and an incredible football game. So we're real proud of our guys. And if James goes well, we go well. So James has really, committed himself to the craft, everything from his lifting routine and taking care of his body. He's probably the only high school kids I know ice baths after practice 2 days a week. Literally gets himself in an ice bath for 10 to 15 minutes. I get cold even walking by him, but he is totally committed to feeling great and playing great. So kudos to James Lyons.
So James Lyons, cold off the field and cold on the field. But another thing you guys have this year behind Lions that maybe didn't quite have last season is that real stable of running backs. Of course, last year it was mainly James Lyons and then Isaac Pitts-Parker. Now you have players like Isaiah Greer, Elias Gold, Chad Dillard, and even Nick Bonskowitz. They've all played significant roles at times. How important are the contributions of some of the backups this year?
That's a great question. So we're trying to spread the ball around in our offense, wing T offense. The wing back has to run the ball to tailback, fullback. So those guys being involved and us sharing the wealth, it does a few things for us. It keeps teams more honest so they can't just key on James. It lowers James' carries a little bit and keeps them a little bit healthier, but also makes those other guys really, really hungry to get a chance when their number is called to show what they can do. So, Chad and Eli Gold, just unbelievable at the fullback spot. They're really sharing the job nicely and really doing a great job. And Bonskowitz, Nick, is doing a phenomenal job at wingback. So we feel very lucky to have those backs. And Greer is a real good change of pace back too. So and they're sort of talk about the character kind of kids they are. They're real happy when one of their brothers does just as well as them. And it creates this I'm out for a couple of plays, but look at Greer go. I'm out a couple of plays. Look at Eli go. So it's a lot of fun to coach that way, and I'm glad the kids kind of bought into it and are really eager to see the brothers do just as well as they're doing.
Now, in an offense that's very run-heavy like the one you've instilled at Lawrence, oftentimes the quarterback stats don't look super impressive. For Francis Gage, 237 yards, 3 touchdowns this season, but just because the quarterback isn't putting up flashy numbers doesn't mean he's not an important part of the offense. How has Gage handled the role of being that quarterback on a team that runs the ball as much as you guys do?
Yeah, he manages the game really, really well. He's done a beautiful job all season. He's not going to wow you with his gaudy stats. But, when they load the box and he can make the box loosen up by throwing over the top or throwing a kind of route, that's awesome. But he knows all the motions and intricacies of the offense, so it's really important he understands, when we hike the ball, when we don't hike the ball, what he does. He's really, really has a great grasp of the system. He's just done a phenomenal job, leading the offense. We're super proud of him. He just keeps getting better and better each game.
So last week, you guys held your own against a real tough Burlington City team, like you mentioned, ultimately fell 24-13. Of course, keeping it close, holding the Blue Devils to just 24 points is something other West Jersey Football League National Division teams have had a tough time doing this year. So I just want to get your overall thoughts on how you felt that game went for your team.
Yeah, I thought, us in Bordentown played them the toughest, and they're beating people by 50 points. We were up 7-0, then I think it was 16-14 or 16-13 at one point, and we gave them a couple short fields, just on a couple mistakes on our part. But really, we thought the kids played super hard, super aggressive. It was probably the best game we played all season as far as physicality goes and rule assignments go. The kids really, really brought their A game, which we were really happy about. Even though we lost the game, I think it kind of grew us a little bit. If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, keeping a game even close like that with a team like Burlington City, very tough to do.
They just played Burlington Township and lost 8-0. Burlington Township is one of the top-ranked teams in the state. So it's kind of interesting when you think of it like that. You're like, wow, you guys are really close to being really, really good. You know what I mean? So we definitely use it as a building block, no doubt.
All right, and then a lot of your production this year on the defensive side of things, we've done a lot of talking about the offense. Let's talk about the defense. It's come from the guys that we've already talked about, right? What does that say about some of the players like Lyons, like Greer, like Chad Dillard, the fact that they can perform at such a high level as two-way players?
They're just Iron Men, and you're like Zane Spencer. He doesn't come off the field. He's our starting tackle and starting defensive tackle as well. Tyler Duncan, he's our center and also our 3-tack. Those guys, when I tell you they don't come off the field, they literally are on special teams. They don't come off the field, but albeit like a kickoff or kickoff return. So, it just shows that they are just really, warriors and totally into their positions and craft and really take a lot of pride in their play. So it's so refreshing to coach guys like that.
Now, it seems we've done a lot of talking, right, about the same 3, 4, 5 guys. Are there any players on your team that you feel have flown under the radar this season and deserve some more recognition than they're getting?
Yeah, I think Christian Parsons, our free safety, he kind of is the general in the defense there. Our defense has done a phenomenal job. Our secondary's done a phenomenal job. Our defense coordinator is Coach Jones, and Nate's phenomenal with the defense, and Coach Kyle Yancic, he does the back half of that defense and really has done a tremendous job. But they've played very, very, very well all season long. So I think some of our secondary, DeMarcus as one of our corners really has done a really nice job. Coleman as our other corner. They've done really good jobs, and they quietly do their job. Our linebackers, Dillard and Gould have really done well. Our defense, they're really playing within the system. So we're super proud of the defense, and oftentimes they're the ones that are keeping us in games. So kudos to them, right?
That's right. And now this week you've got quite the trip down 295 facing Pennsville, a team that gave you guys a little bit of trouble last season. They returned many of the same players this year. What will be the game plan going up against guys like their quarterback, Robbie McDade, running back Ryan Hardy in the ground game?
They're good. They're big and they're physical. We know our schedule in Burlington County is a very tough schedule. But that being said, we thought it was going to help us get better, and I think it has. So we know we'll have our hands full with them. But I think that we weren't super healthy last year. We played without a few guys, so we're hoping that helps us out. And I think the kids are eager to show that we can compete with all the teams on our schedule, and that's super important to us. We expect to go out there and compete and be in it to win it in the end. That's sort of been our motto all season long. So we're excited for the challenge. We've got box lunches ready to go for the ride down. The kids are excited. I think it should be fun on Friday night.
Yeah, Pennsville certainly a very fun long trip down 295 towards that Delaware Memorial Bridge. But have you guys identified anything watching film on the Eagles this week that you feel that you may be able to exploit tomorrow?
They're just sound. They're fundamentally sound. Our coach does a really nice job with them. We think we match up well with them. We think that, it's going to be a heck of a football game. I'm sure it'll be a tight contest, and hopefully we could be in it to win it. We expect it to be something like a Burlington City kind of game where everything matters. So if we could be in that type of game with them, I think that'd be great.
Now, finally, of course, Lawrence. It's been a football program that's endured some real hard times within the last decade, but a 5-5 season last year, now one win away from securing an above 500 regular season this year. The program certainly seems headed in the right direction. How close do you feel like this program is to being perhaps a major player in Mercer County once again?
It would probably be nice to have a Mercer County schedule again heading into the future, just because our travel is so much, and we think we play just as good teams in Burlington County as we do in Mercer County, right? So we think that, every year is independent of another with kids graduating, but we definitely think we've kind of set the foundation for future success at Lawrence. So it's just a matter of kids buying in and kids committing. It's not just in season, as you know. It's it starts in November or December when weight room starts and goes to the following August. That counts just as important. So we think that we've kind of laid the foundation, and we think the more you win, the more kids become interested in playing as well. So I think that helps as well. So we're excited by the kids we have. We really like our kids a lot, and we're excited by what the future holds as well.
Awesome. Well, Coach, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for taking some time here to join me on the High School Huddle. Good luck against Pennsville this week.
Thank you, and thanks for everything you do for high school football.
Well, there you have it. That was Lawrence High School football coach Rob Radice. Just a great all-around guy. Like I mentioned, got a chance to cover his team the last couple of years over at Ryder. You could tell Coach Radice, he's got that team playing well. He's got them energized. And like I mentioned, one win away from clinching an above 500 record this year. Lawrence Cardinals, certainly a program on the rise over in Mercer County. But another program on the rise is that at Hamilton West. And when we come back, I'm going to be talking to their head coach, Mike Papero, on the other side of this break, right here on WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM, and on YouTube, WBCB Sports.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org.
Today's show is proudly sponsored by Anthony Petsis and Associates, voted the best financial advisory firm in Bucks County for 13 years by the Bucks County Courier-Times. Anthony Petsis and Associates delivers people-centered advice, empowering you to take control of your financial future with confidence. Their firm is committed to helping your family build and preserve wealth for the next 100 years. If you're interested in becoming a client of the top-rated financial advisory firm in Bucks County, please contact Anthony Petsis and Associates at 215-968-6638. That's 215-968-6638. You can also visit their website at apetsis.com. Anthony Petsis and Associates. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
You're listening to the High School Huddle on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. The High School Huddle is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your host, Jordan Hirsh.
Welcome back into the High School Huddle. I am your host, Jordan Hirsh. Just got done speaking with Lawrence High School football coach Rob Radice. And now on the line, speaking to the head coach of Hamilton West football, Mike Papero. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great, Jordan. Great to hear from you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Now, Coach, after winning just 2 games in each of the last 2 seasons at Hamilton West, your team now sits at 4-2, heading here into Week 7. What has been the biggest improvement among your team from the last 2 years into this one?
A lot of the credit goes to the players and the assistant coaches. We had a great off season. And when you struggle like we've struggled in the past, one of the big things is to, figure out what you've done wrong and find better ways to do what we're doing. We've simplified a lot. We're trying to use our athletes a little more. But a lot of it really just came down to, looking in the mirror, trying to put these kids in better positions to win. And you know what? This is the most talented team that we've had in the past, few years. Kids are working hard. Kids are talented. Coaches are working hard. And we just kind of simplified what we were doing.
Now, speaking of that talent, the defense hasn't allowed more than 16 points in a game all season. What are some of the things that have allowed that unit to play at such a high level?
Well, we're getting pressure on the quarterback, and at least in the passing game, that's a big deal for us. We're getting to the quarterback, and even if we're not, even if we're not getting all the sacks that we want to get, there's still pressure on him. There's somebody in his face. We're hitting the quarterback as many times as we can. And then in the run game, our defensive line, they might not get a ton of tackles every game, but they're taking up blocks and they're setting a line of scrimmage, in the backfield, and they're not typically getting pushed back. We have 3 great linebackers, actually 4. Matt Brescio's been banged up for a little while. Brandon Boswell, Christian Eagleton, that's a group of linebackers that is comparable to the Krantz brothers and Tolu Adiaga from 5-6 years ago. And then a kid named Quasi Williams who really stepped up to pick up for Matt, since Matt's out. So linebackers have been playing great. And then, in the back end, we have a lot of talented upperclassmen. We've been playing more man defense this year, but we also mix a couple other coverages. But they've been working hard. They're talented. And, I think one of the other big things, though, it goes back to getting pressure on the quarterback. The best way to help out your defensive backs is to be able to get to the quarterback and not let the quarterback have a lot of time. So I think that's been a big part of our success.
Yeah, that I remember was something you talked to me in the preseason about wanting to get more pressure on opposing quarterbacks, now averaging about 2 sacks per game. Just to dive a little deeper there, what are your overall thoughts on how that pass rush has performed this season?
They're doing a great job, and we're getting pressure from the inside, which is always nice when that quarterback can't get comfortable and the offensive line can't form that like nice umbrella pocket for him. We're starting to bust teams up from the inside out, and then we have a decent number of guys that we can bring on the field to get pressure on the quarterback. So it's not just 2 D tackles we have in there and 2 D ends in there. We're pretty deep there, and we have some guys that rush the passer in different ways, whether it's more of a power rush thing or a couple guys that take advantage of their speed on the outside. So it's a nice combination of power and speed, and we are pretty deep up there.
Now, offensively, you get Brian Boswell back a couple of weeks ago against Nottingham. Just how instrumental is a guy like Boswell to your team, a player who he's your lead running back, but then also defensively as well, he's a performer at linebacker too.
Yeah, so Brian's a great player overall, and not having him back there, it limited us a little bit. Daniel Figueroa was lost for the year, so going into some of these games without our top 2 running backs was a challenge, but we had other guys step up. Christian Eagleton was running the ball, DeMario Marshall a little bit, Quasi Williams. So the good thing is it's giving other guys a chance to show what they can do. But any time that you don't have Brian Boswell on the field or a running back like him, it's going to set you back a little bit. He's somebody that can run the ball between the tackles real tough. But then if he gets outside, he's gone, and there aren't going to be many people that are catching him. So he's a home run hitter. We have to make sure we're opening up some lanes for him. Nottingham did a pretty good job against us, and we couldn't really get him the room that we wanted to. But at any time he can break one for 20 yards. And that's what he did against Nottingham to kind of seal the game for us. So he's not somebody that's going to be stopped consistently, and he is somebody that can do pretty much everything on the field for us.
Now, you've mentioned his name a few times already, but Christian Eagleton, I want to highlight him just because he's been outstanding this year. 46 total tackles to lead the team. He just had the game-winning pick 6 against Nottingham a couple weeks ago. What's allowed him to blossom here in his junior season?
He's a really hard worker, and he's really talented. Coach Tom Delina on the defensive side of the ball is, putting him in great positions. The linebacker coach is Stephen Gazdeck. He's doing a great job out there with him. But when it comes down to it, Christian's a stud, and he's a football player, and he works his butt off, and he's physical, and he's fast, and he wants to be great. And when you have somebody that has all of the tools mentally and physically, it's not surprising that he's been as good and as dominant. And I'm happy that he was able to seal that win for us against Nottingham because when there's that backyard brawl between us 2 schools, there's a lot of stuff being talked, and he was able to quiet down some of the people that were doing that talking.
Now, I've been asking every coach that comes on the show this question the last few weeks, but are there any players on your team that you feel have flown under the radar this season, guys that you feel deserve more recognition than they're getting right now?
Yeah, I'll be honest. There's a bunch because I think people still don't, have the respect for us that they should. And there's probably about 10 or 15 guys that I could name. There is a defensive lineman named Guitry DeRogel who is, he's a junior. He barely played for us. He played a little bit for us last year, but he's somebody who is just as consistent and reliable of a lineman that any team really could have. He's just a stalwart up there. And Sean Blakely is another lineman. He goes both ways for us. Just a natural football player. And those linemen don't typically get the love that they deserve. Receiver-wise, Deshaun Jones, Xavier Jenkins, Brody Hunt. I mean, we have a great receiving core, and these are guys that are doing what they have to do in practice every week, and and then it's been translating in the game. So we have a lot of guys that fit that description. I think that's why we're having such a good year.
So because you guys play that Thanksgiving game against Steinert, right, you had the bye week last week. Do you feel like that extra rest is something that will benefit you guys the last 2 weeks of the regular season and then potentially into the postseason as well?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. If you're sometimes when you're playing really well, you don't want that break. But we've been a little beat up lately, so that extra week was a time that we could get our bodies right, get our minds right, and really prepare for this second part of the season now. Robbinsville is a good team. No matter what their record says, they're dangerous. They're coached really well. Coach Patterson, I have a lot of respect for him and the job that he does. So using that extra week off to prepare for them, really, really helps out. And it's like we said, it's kind of like a break for us to prepare for this second part of the season here.
Yeah, so you guys go up against Robbinsville on Saturday. That game, by the way, on WBCB, 2 o'clock. That Robbinsville team, they've got one of the better quarterbacks in the county in Gavin Yablonowitz. What are the keys to slowing him down on Saturday?
Well, and he is very good, and our team knows that, and we respect this team, and the big thing for us is going to be making sure that we're doing what we are taught to do and not doing our own thing and getting caught out of coverage. So a lot of it, as much as we respect him and respect that team, a lot of it is going to come down to are we where we're supposed to be when we're lining up? Are we in the correct coverages? And, I don't care what level of football it is. If the quarterback has a lot of time to throw, he's going to complete passes. And when you can put pressure on a quarterback and make them throw with somebody trying to run them over or putting a hand in their face, that's going to make things a lot tougher on them. So, whether it's him or another great quarterback, getting to the quarterback is important, and really just staying disciplined in the game plan and in the play calls is what's going to determine whether how well we do.
Now, the Ravens on defense, their run defense has had its fair share of struggles this season. Do you feel like this is a good matchup for you guys, considering you have the talent of a player like Brian Boswell at the running back position?
Well, yeah, and you know what? I'll put it this way: they've done a lot of different things defensively, almost to an extent where they've given so many looks, it's a little tough to prepare for exactly what they're going to do. So that's where the film study, and everything, where that'll help. But they have a few different ways that they can go after us, and we feel like we're prepared for everything. And we'll see what they give us. Brian was successful against them last year. I think he ran for over 200 yards against them. But we're not a one-man offense anymore. Statistically, we've thrown and we've run for almost identical numbers, like 700-something yards, running and passing, each running and passing. So it used to be if you could shut down Hamilton West run game, then you could probably beat us. That's not the case. We have Cullen Bressler back there. We have, Carmelo Brown. We have a lot of weapons. So, a lot of arrows in the quiver, like they say. So we're ready to go. Brian definitely could have a great game, and if they decide they want to try to take him away, then, we have a counterpunch for that too.
Now, lastly, another thing that you had emphasized to me in the preseason, it was that you wanted to play a nasty style of football. Do you feel like your team has done that this year?
Absolutely, and we preach it every day. There's no sport like it. You get to run around and hit people as hard as you can, and I think teams that have played us, whether win or lose, teams that have played us have walked off the field sore, and we preach to them to hit people every play and do it legally and do it from snap to whistle. But we have been a very, very physical football team. And, I mean, we lost 2 games by 2 points. We very easily could have been in a different spot than we are now. And we let that anger us a little bit, that we let those 2 games get away. So we play angry, we play physical, we play fast, and, that's not going to change.
All right, Coach. Well, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for taking some time coming on the show here today, and good luck against Robbinsville on Saturday.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Well, there you have it. That was Hamilton West head coach Mike Papero. We appreciate him coming on the show. And that's about all the time we've got left here this afternoon. Thank you guys all for listening. For those of you on the radio side, Glenn Jones is next. For those of you on the YouTube side, how about you head over to the radio side, give Glenn a listen from starting at 5 o'clock over there on WBCB 1490 AM 107.3 FM. Make sure you tune in to Friday Night Hype with myself and Rich Fisher tomorrow from 4 to 5 on whichever platform you prefer, the radio or on YouTube. But until then, I say thank you for listening and have a great night, everybody.